everyone. Welcome again to another episode of Colivers Club by Mapmelon. Today I have the pleasure to introduce you guys to Tobias Hug, who is one of the best friends I have met during the last years. He has been the coliving king for the last 10 to 15 years because he has been going to almost all the most popular colivings, Nine, SunDesk, Tattoo, all of them. And yeah, I am very excited to have him here.
Toby has been nomading for more than 15 years, and now he is starting to be not a nomad again. So we want to talk a little bit about this and also about his experience of starting in SunDesk with his first coliving there, and then now becoming partner of SunDesk and Magda, the owner of SunDesk Coliving. So let's go diving into the life of Tobias Hug.
Really? Now I need to do podcast promotions? Colive Fukuoka in Japan, October 1st to the 31st, 2024. You know I can't go these dates. Social events, skill shares, and connect with nomads all over the world. And 20% discount for Colivers Club and Mapmelon members? Wow, FOMO is hitting really hard. If you don't want this to happen to you, please check out their website, colivfukuoka.com.
Hello, everybody. This is another episode of Colivers Club. I'm your host, César Alberca, and this podcast has been powered by Mapmelon. Here today we have Tobias Hug. He's a minimalist, a productivity nerd, and global nomad. He's into yoga, calisthenics, and Muay Thai for some
Very
reason,
good, exactly.
which we'll get into that. Tobias, how are you?
I'm very well, especially now that I see you. A little bit of flirting at the beginning. No, I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. Yeah, we were talking before in the backstage to see what questions would I ask you. And we came up with some very good questions.
So no
yeah,
pressure at all. Now that I already know the
No
questions, I
pressure.
better have a good response.
How do you envision the perfect Skillshare session?
How I envision the perfect Skillshare.
Yeah, does it happen over lunch? Does it need to have a presentation in PowerPoint?
Okay. I mean, that's very heavily biased on my personal preferences. So what I personally don't usually like is like an endless monologue and presentation. Like same as university, I never was a big, advocate for just sitting there and consuming for 1 hour. I like learning by doing, which is exactly the format why when I did my own Skillshare, always try to make it as interactive as possible and have some real life examples. So I don't like just having 1 hour of theory, but like to have a very practical examples that actually are specific takeaways for the audience. I think this is another one, like learning by doing, very pragmatic and practical, and the people who are in the Skillshare should have a very clear idea of what to do next, like next steps. And it should also be somewhat customized towards their needs. So I think what would also be a good idea is, to ask at the beginning or even before it starts, like, what questions do you actually have as an audience? What are your problems? What is your goal? To get an idea of what the audience really needs or wants to hear, and then tailor it a little bit to their interests, give them practical takeaways, and maybe a bit of an outlook how it could look like in future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And normally the skill shares that you've done in the past, how long were they, more or less?
Never longer than 1 hour because people just doze off. I would say, yeah, really between 20 minutes to up to 1 hour. That's usually the thing. And it's very often, especially at Sun & Co., it was like during a lunch break. So people, they need to go back to work or have something else planned after. So this is why there's usually a very natural limit to the
Yeah,
sessions.
it's more light, right? Because eating with a 4-point
Or that,
presentation.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Have some food in between. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very casual. It's not formal. And yeah, really kept for timing.
Yeah, what I like about the skill shares is that normally, for example, of course, as humans, we are interested in different things, of course, right?
Yeah.
And the cool thing about skill shares is that somebody with a totally different perspective on things offers a skill set about something that you will not normally be interested, right? But because
That's a
a lot
good
of
point.
people go and you don't want to miss out, so you go
That's
and
a good
then
point, yeah.
you learn something new that you
Yeah.
wouldn't have learned otherwise.
That's true. It's not only in an area where you already operate in, like business things, but it's also
Or
sometimes
underpants,
right,
for example.
or underpants exactly. But it's also sometimes something completely different that you haven't thought of. Like the last one that I remember in this respect was at Cloud Citadel in Briançon, and there was a guy who was creating a board game from scratch. And he shared a little bit of his journey, and that was really something. I mean, I didn't think about creating my own game before, but it was very interesting to have some insights into this journey.
Yeah, nice. I love board
Mm.
games, so
Yeah.
I would have liked to to attend this presentation. Nice. And you traveled a lot through Southeast Asia, right? During your digital nomadism lifestyle.
Yeah, in the early years, I would say, before I discovered colivings, I think I spent like 4 to 5 years in Southeast Asia, primarily, like Indonesia, not Bali, just I think 1 or 2 months in Bali, everything else for like 2 years in Jakarta, which I cannot recommend. And yeah, and then the classics like Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I spent a lot of time there.
And how did you transition from solo traveling to go to colivings? When did you start going to colivings?
I stumbled upon it. I wanted to explore Morocco because Morocco, was always advertised as a beautiful country to experience, and I've never been. So I just went to Morocco. And then I had internet issues. I think it was like 9 or 10 years ago. I was in Marrakesh. There was no co-working or cafe like that. So I really needed urgently good and reliable internet. And then I heard about the one space in Tagazout, that was, a working space with fiber internet and this sort of stuff. So I went there and turned out that it was a co-living. So it was my first co-living experience. I had no idea. I never heard about that concept before. I was actually at the beginning a little bit overwhelmed. Like I didn't know what to expect. Like, oh wow, there are like 12 other people in the same house. It's like, I was a little cautious about that. But yeah, then I learned to really love it. And ever since then, I primarily spent my time in the last 9 years now in co-living spaces. But yeah, it was just an accident.
And what do you consider a co-living, or what does co-living mean for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Also not an easy one, because I do feel that many spaces nowadays and brands, they misuse the label co-living a little bit, or not intentionally misuse, but it's a very broad term and it can entail many very different experiences. So for me, I think it's easier to start what it not is. For me, it's not an apartment building. Like there are a couple of big brands that, they purchase a gigantic house in the middle of Lisbon, and then the house has like 4 different floors. Every floor has their own door, their own living room, their own kitchen, and then you have one common space, which is the co-working, which closes at a certain point of time. And this is what they call co-living. For me, this is not a co-living. Co-living for me means that you have a very active community management, and that you have there's a more significance on the shared spaces. It's not only a co-working, but it's also like one shared kitchen, one shared living room. It's a place where people meet and connect very, again, organically, because they will need to eat eventually.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so it's not like, different apartments with their own units of kitchens and living rooms. It's just like one space that is a common space where people meet, and then at night when they want to sleep, they go to their private unit. And yeah, the community management is much more active. There's usually some sort of program like family meetings or shared breakfast or shared dinner or these sort of things.
Like even the figure of a host.
Yeah, like the hosts are usually very actively involved. Yeah. And yeah, there is actually a role that is called host and not just house manager. It's a community manager in the end. Yes.
Yeah. There was somebody that said that in order for a co-living to be considered co-living, the person owning the co-living will need to know most of the names of the people being there, right? If they
I
cannot
think I saw that
name or you
in
don't.
your very first Colivers episode, because I watched it last night. So yeah, I think they were saying it. They know
Yeah.
every single name of every single guest who's ever been there. And yeah, it's to a degree, it's correct. I mean, now I feel like, especially the early co-living spaces, the owners, they slowly get out a little bit because it's overwhelming. After 5 years of nonstop being in the co-living, having thousands of guests, like it's very overwhelming. And now I see like, they're slowly getting out a little bit and having other managers who take care of the community, which is completely valid. But then the managers know every single name. So yeah, like the person who is on location, they're very involved usually.
Nice. And you mentioned Morocco. You've been there more times, right?
Yeah, that's the place that comes closest to the definition of home, whatever the definition of home is. But I love it there. I've been there for 3 to 5 months every year since 9 years. Like my first co-living. I always feel like, you are emotionally very attached to the first co-living experience that you have. I saw that with many other people, and mine was in Morocco. So I'm very emotionally attached, yes.
Nice. And you even have a partnership with SunDesk Coliving.
Now I do, yes. I co-own a beach house with Magda, who is the manager and owner of SunDesk. So basically, technically, I'm not a manager or owner of SunDesk. I'm just a partner because I co-own a beach house that is also being used, for guests, like guests who want to have a bit more private sphere or want to be closer to the beach or want to have their own little kitchen corner. Like they can also like book a unit in the beach house.
Yeah, this tends to happen once there's a co-living space in a city that is a little bit remote. Then people start buying properties or start moving to
Yeah.
these near
That is
places,
true.
right?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I've also witnessed that a couple of times in different locations. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
people
to me.
build a connection also with the place, and it's actually super nice. Like in Morocco, there's like it's also very seasonal in terms of guests. Like if you go in a specific period, you can be sure that you know half of the people because they come every single year. And many of them, like now, they also have like an apartment outside the co-living, or yeah, as you say, they purchase something even. So it's like it's almost like yeah, like a neighborhood that you already know on top of the co-living community.
Yeah, this also happened in Tertulia in Italy. Like people were moving in, these
Yeah.
super international folks, right?
Yeah.
Moving into the middle of nowhere, and the Italian neighbors were like,
What's happening? Yeah.
"What's happening?"
I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, nice. And how did the partnership start? Was that something that you were looking into it before it happened, or it just happened?
Mm. It was quite quick actually in the end. So I know that Magda has been or was looking for property for quite a long time, and Tagazoud is very limited in terms of property offer because there are argan trees around, and the argan trees are protected. So the village cannot naturally expand in size. So there's a very limited offer of available buildings, and also many of them are very old. So if you want to have like a decent quality building near the beach, yeah, it's very hard to find. But eventually, like at one point, there was something available, and yeah, basically, Mac and I said, okay, let's just do this together.
Nice.
Hmm.
And after all this traveling, now you are kind of like setting a base in Marseille. How do you adapt from being a nomad for so long to the regular lifestyle?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. So the traveling was after the first 5 years in Asia, the traveling part was never that important to me. I just traveled in the end to be with my friends, and it was all about relationships. This is why I travel in the end. But it's not. I don't need to move, so that part is okay. It's more about like how do you find a community now in a big city without a co-living. So yeah, it's I'm struggling a little bit to adapt. It's like it takes a lot of time and effort. And I really feel like since there are no solutions in place that are, suited for my own needs, I have the strong feeling that I just need to create my own solution. So this is why the remote workers in Marseille, it's one group that I created, but I also already many months ago created a board game night group for every Thursday. And yeah, so I'm just trying to build different or create different groups for different people, different interests, and see what sticks best to collect people to build a network, to also to learn what the city needs and the people who come here. Why do they come here? Why do they live here? Like, do they feel lonely? Do they feel like they have a great network? Like, really understand the audience and the people here, basically. And based on that, then I will make decisions on, okay, like, do I make a pop-up co-living? Do I rent a permanent space, a community space? So I'm still in the exploration phase. It's hard to adapt, and I do feel that I need to create my own solution.
Nice. So maybe in the future you open your own coliving or
Maybe, yeah, inshallah, as the Moroccans would say. Yeah. Let's see, let's see. Yeah.
Okay, nice. And you also mentioned that you were traveling a lot because you have built these relationships with people. And I'm wondering if you've had the same feeling where you just meet people for 1 week and it's so deep, so intense
Mm.
that you feel like you've met them for your whole life, right?
Yeah.
While maybe when you meet with your usual friends, no, in your home country, I
Mm.
mean, it's beautiful, it's nice, but it's different, no? How do
It
you
is
feel
very
about
different.
this?
Yeah, I completely agree. And not only with the existing friends that I have in my home country, but also like again in a city life like here. So in a city, you meet a couple of times a week if you get along, and then it takes like 2, 3 hours for dinner, and then you go retract, and then you go on a weekend trip. It takes a lot of time, and in co-livings it's like 24/7, like nonstop. You have breakfast with a person, you have lunch, dinner, you work together in the same room, you have like activities, you go together to the beach. So you spend a significant amount of quantity. It's very condensed in a short amount. And what comes on top is also, you share an experience. It's not like you just have your day-to-day life, but you're usually in a country that you don't know, and having all those amazing exploration trips and discoveries, and you share those experience together with those people you just met. So it's also very intense in terms of quality. So a lot of quantity, a lot of quality, and I really feel like it's like a fast style to really, really make deep relationships and deep talks. Like so often, like after 3 days, I met someone, and you have like a super deep conversation with someone, which here would never happen in the first month, like ever.
But because I think also people that tend to travel,
Mm,
they have to be open-minded, no? A little bit
mm,
at least, because you
yeah.
go to you find yourself in a country that is not yours, and you are in this vulnerable position, right? And I think out of vulnerability,
Mm.
people find these deeper connections. You need to be
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah.
open about it.
Yeah. Openness, and they don't know the location, and they don't know the people. I think, yeah, they're also like, they're drawn out of their, group of their personal network. So it's really like they're dependent a little bit on meeting others, and yeah, yeah, it's true. It's a different mindset as well.
When I went to Alpines the last year, we were talking about cryptocurrencies
Mm.
and things like that. And I heard that you are also interested in these topics, right? Can you tell us more
Yeah,
about it?
I was extremely fortunate to be at the right place at the right time. Also, actually, my second year at SunDesk in Morocco, there was like this one Bitcoin millionaire. He invested super early, was super fucking rich, and he was really like brainwashing the entire community. And there were like, I remember there were like 5 or 6 people all non-stop talking about cryptocurrency. And at that time, like Ethereum would be the next big thing after Bitcoin, and yeah, I was fortunate enough to be with this group and to really learn from them, how do you even invest in a cryptocurrency? It's not necessarily self-explanatory. So I really learned from them, and did a quite early investment, which was, yeah, very profitable over time.
Okay,
So yeah,
we
I'm
can
highly interested in that.
so we can
Bit.
do the headline already for the show. Go to Colivings, you'll be rich,
Yeah,
right?
more or less. In this case, it's literally true. Yeah, yeah. But it's just one of many things. You're also very rich in emotions, in life experience,
Oh,
in personal relationships. It's not just monetary, it's just money, which is
which
easy to
is
say,
more
but it's like,
important than money, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah. You can be very unhappy even if you have money.
Yeah, true, true. But
Mm,
people would rather cry over a Ferrari than
mm.
anything else.
Fair, fair. Yeah. But yeah, that's
That-
just the beauty, huh, of meeting the right people, of being in a community, to getting the right input, and to being open for that. And it's just one example of many other things that I learned along the years. So that's
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, this podcast, for example, happened because of this as well, right?
yeah.
I went to Switzerland. I met Ramon and Sole. We
Mm.
talked. We liked the idea of doing a podcast about colivings, and it
Boom,
happened,
here you
no?
are.
And
Yeah.
yeah, here I am.
Yeah, it can go
So,
quickly. Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like you also, I don't know, the first time I went to a co-living, uh, even though I was working the whole time, and I think I even put more hours than usual,
Hmm.
I came back home, and I was even more energized, more motivated doing things.
Hmm.
And
Why do
it's
you
all
think
these
that is?
people. Yeah, I wonder, right? But I think it's just you break out of your routine, your habits. Everything
Mm,
is new, everything is exciting, and
yeah.
although it's compelling and it's very nice, it has the downsides of potentially being something negative, no? That you also need your alone time, no? How do
That
you
is
find
true.
balance?
Good question. I feel like there are usually two types of people. Like either you want to default, be alone, and then just meet people when you want to. And I'm exactly the opposite. I love default having people around me. And then if I need it, I take alone time. And for me, usually it's like maybe one day at the weekend or like 2 evenings per week. Like I require very little alone time. I like it and I take it. Um, but yeah, like most of the time, I'm very content being surrounded by people. But yeah, the taking part is actually a thing that I saw very often, like with newcomers, like people who come for the first time to a co-living, and especially when there's a lot of offer, like a lot of skill shares, masterminds, activities, you sometimes feel like you want to take it all. And that's great for a certain amount of time, but if you do not take, as you say, if you do not take the alone time, then your energy will drop as well because it's just too much stimuli. So you really need to learn to balance it as you go along and not
Yeah,
be afraid of missing an opportunity or missing an activity. It's fine. The same activity, if you stay long enough, will pop up again 2 weeks later.
yeah, you just need to learn to say no, right? I remember
Yeah.
also having this feeling of FOMO, no, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just like, oh yeah, I want to go to this winery to learn about this, but I also
Yeah,
want to go surf and I want to do this and I want to do
exactly.
that. And it's just, okay, yeah, for a
Yeah.
week, two tops, you can do this, no? But
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
need to
FOMO is the
figure out,
keyword. FOMO is the
yeah,
keyword. But
yeah.
that's the beautiful thing with like location independence, right? Like nowadays, like if there's a, I don't know, a cave that I want to see near Marseille, it's like I don't care if I miss it this time around because I know that, I am so free. If it's important to me at one point in my life, I simply go back and see it then. It's like you really don't need to rush to do everything at once because you know you can come back anytime you want in the end.
Hmm.
I think it's a bit the difference to having vacations, which is very limited. Like, you have like 2 weeks of vacation if you're employed and live in one city. And then, of course, you need to cramp everything in it because you cannot just say you come back a month later. Like, your vacation time is limited. But if you're location independent, all the freedom in the world, just come later. There is no
Yeah.
FOMO.
Yeah, also I feel like when you are on holidays, you might be in a different mood. You might want to disconnect from everything
Yeah,
and maybe have a more relaxed approach.
yeah,
Whereas if you are in a co-living, working, you can have a different vibe, right?
yeah, it's true.
Um, hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting to me this part because I felt it so much, and I was discussing it with other people like, guys, how do you keep up? And they say, no, no, you don't need to say yes to everything.
Yeah, yeah,
I said,
it's true. But it's, yeah.
ah,
Yeah, it's a lesson to be learned. Yeah. It's
yeah, for
difficult in the
sure.
beginning.
Mm.
I also feel
And
like, you usually go in the other extreme. Like if you really, you come from a life, like the more traditional lives, I would say, or conventional, I don't know the word, like where you're really based in one location and then suddenly you are remote working, you have all the freedom, you move, and then you go to the far extreme. Then you do, maybe too many locations in too short of a time. You never say no, like all these things. And then you feel like, oh, that's not very sustainable either. And then you go a little bit back and find the right balance. I think it's just a matter of time, which is, I did the exact same thing. Like at the beginning, I was super hype, and then you realize, maybe dial it down one or two levels, and then it's much more sustainable.
Hmm. Yeah, and I also think that people, for example, who moved to these co-livings, that they're also these people still are part of the co-living lifestyle, no? Because they are part of the plans and these things. They
Yeah.
you don't see them so often, right? Or they know how to say no, I think, better than the newcomers.
Yeah, fair. There is a bit of a difference. Yes. Yeah, I
Hmm.
agree.
I also think I don't know. Do you think the co-living should have a maximum amount of time of that people can
Oh,
spend in the co-living before kicking
oh,
them out through the
it's
back
an
door?
interesting question because usually it's more the opposite question. Like, should
The
there be a
minimum,
minimum
right?
stay? Which I believe yes, there should be a minimum. In terms of maximum, it's a tough one
Hmm. I,
because
I
it
I
would be
want
weird if
to
I, yeah,
yeah, I want to argument why I think this is something that should be
yeah,
considered. I think when people stay for 7 months, a year or more, which has never been my case. So I
Mm.
will need to try at some point, maybe. I feel like these people maybe don't mix so well with newcomers. They have their own kind of group, maybe
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And since they are meeting so many people all the time, they are not really up for making
Hmm.
any more friends. Sometimes, this is
Good. Yeah.
this this is sometimes how I felt when this happened. This person has lived in near the co-living for 2 3 more years,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know.
So you
What
say
do you
near
think
the
about
co-living
this?
or in the co-living? Because that
Mm,
might be a difference, no?
Near the co-living or maybe in the co-living.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, because I've never met one person who stays non-stop in one co-living, but I think,
yeah,
yeah, it would also be unfortunate for other guests because, like if you happen to not like the person overly much and then every single time you come back, this guy's there again. It's like, which sometimes I feel like, oh, I should be careful with my Moroccan stay. Um, but yeah, that can be an issue, and you are right. Like usually me as well, like there are always waves in co-livings, like always like a wave of a group that has a big overlap of time, and then the key members of the group leave, and there is a new wave of people coming in who stays, has like a big overlap of time. So I really feel like it's always different waves and very different groups and energies at times. If you stay for like 3 months in one co-living, which was my usual sweet spot. Like I would usually stay for 3 months. And I must say the first 2 weeks, first two waves are super easy for me. But then the third one, yeah, you start feeling like, oof, okay, another wave of new people where do you need to introduce yourself, start from zero. That can be quite exhausting.
yeah.
Which is, I think, one of the very, very few downsides of my co-living life that I felt. Like it's the balance between stability and novelty is a bit off. Like it's too many new people in relation to, deepening the relationships with people you already know. And this is also why I adapted a little bit in the end, as in like, I wouldn't just go to a co-living for the purpose of being in a co-living, but I would always try to go in a co-living where there are already a few friends of mine, or they will come a little bit later. And it's not that I only hang out with my friends then and ignore all the others. It's more just, it gives me a bit more stability and balance. And if I'm more balanced, then I'm actually more open towards other people as well. So it's really, I think the balance between novelty and stability is something that is still a
Nice.
little bit off for me
Yeah, because
personally.
I remember sometimes going to a co-living, meeting these amazing people, oh man, I'm going to have such a great time with them. We have so much in common. And then I ask the dreaded question like, oh, when are you leaving? Oh,
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no.
Yeah. It's always a bit heartbreaking.
Yeah, and then you need to add them in Mapmelon to see when are you going to.
This is the key, exactly, to coordinate
Yeah,
your future travel plans. That's actually, yeah, no, seriously, this is why I love Mapmelon. It's very
yeah,
practical.
a sneak promotion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Ramon, when he built the app with Sole, that's what the idea was, right? We are meeting these amazing people.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose contact, and I want to see
Exactly.
when they could potentially be at a co-living that I might want to visit as well. So
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't miss that opportunity. But this is again, no FOMO, no fear of missing out on this new relationship, no, with this person that you have so much in common with.
Yeah, fear of
Um,
missing out and also like deepening the relationship. Like I like to go deeper instead of always staying at the surface, as in like who you are, where you're from, what you're doing, blah blah blah. It's really like if you already have a trust basis, if you already shared significant experience with another person, then I feel like every time you meet in a different composition, in a different place with a new group around, you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And this is
hmm,
very beautiful for me as well. It's not like the
yeah,
quantity of contacts that I have in my life, but also like the depth of the relationships that I have.
yeah. Do you think co-living should have like a set of rules of questions that can never be asked? For example, where are you from? What do you do? This kind
It's
of
an
like
interesting,
super typical questions that,
yeah.
of course, you don't mind
Hmm.
answering a
I
few
mean, it
here
would
and
be
there,
an
but
yeah,
it's
it
very
would be an
common.
interesting experiment. I mean, it's hard to control because as soon as people leave the house, in a restaurant, it may pop up again because it's just the habit, the question to go to. But I think maybe because Cloud Citadel and Sun and Co, they both, they have those family meetings and Chateau Co-living as well, actually, just to drop another co-living I like. So they have those family meetings, and every family meeting there's like one question that everyone answers, and usually those are questions that are a little bit different, to open the perspective a little bit, to get to know each other. aside from the commonly asked questions. So yeah, I think colivings actually go a little bit intuitively in this direction, but a rule set with forbidden questions would certainly be an interesting experiment. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we tend to do this because we want to put people in boxes, no? Oh, Tobias, he's from Germany, he
Yeah.
does this, he is this and that,
Yeah.
and now
Yeah.
you understand Tobias, right? But it's
Yeah.
so much more than that, right?
That's true. Even though I must admit, even I ask the questions as well. It's like it's
Yeah,
just it's so easy. And yeah, as you say, it immediately okay from the US from the UK is like it helps somehow to to structure it in my mind. But it's
yeah,
it's still at the surface. So other questions
yeah.
would be preferable for sure.
Mhm. Like, for example, like which question would you like to ask people?
Oh, what are you proud of having achieved in the last year? Or but very often asked, what was your highlight of the day? I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
So, but that's just a starting question. I think the best question actually is the secondary question, and it's simply why. Like you always say like, okay, you cannot say, okay, I'm from the UK. Why? Because you were born there. So that's a bit pointless. But like, what was your highlight? And then the person answers, you ask, why was it your highlight? Why do you find it interesting? Why are you passionate about that? Why are you doing what you're doing? Like the secondary question is something that I would actually like to hear more often in
Yeah,
general, not only colleagues, but in society. Because I feel like we always stop after the first answer and then we go to the next question. But it's like never going deeper, it's just going broader.
yeah, true, true.
Yeah.
No, like this is very interesting. Um, but yeah, I feel like organically this, like, because people I think they think, they after a while of having traveled to Colivings, you want to, of course, this is what happened to me, right? At the beginning, I was, where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah.
And this type of questions, and then I understood, like, oh, I see that this is now getting a little bit pointless, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of
It's true.
course, at some point, yeah, I like to try and guess. That's
Mm.
a game I have. No, oh, I'm going to
Mm.
guess what do they do, and if I think I mean, normally I guess that's developer. Because
Yeah.
I'm almost going to be sure that they are. No, I don't know, but 80% of the digital nomads I've met are developers or
Many.
uh,
Yeah.
project managers as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
So you can never
designers.
go
There are
wrong.
also a lot of UX designers and coaches as well. I feel like actually it's getting a bit more diverse these days. But yeah, it's always somewhat digital and less
Hmm.
artists, for example, which I would love to see more. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think I
the
think I
space must be
met
adapted.
I think I met a girl also. She was a psychologist, which I think was super
Hmm.
interesting to be traveling
Yeah.
around the world
Yeah, for sure.
and offering these sessions.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I wonder in the future what will be the most common profession, right? In the digital nomad. See.
ChatGPT prompting.
Prompt
Maybe.
engineer. Yeah,
Maybe. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Hmm.
Yeah, and also the AI and everything that has taken the world. No,
Hmm.
I think I've been to several skill shares about AI
Mm-hmm.
lately.
Mm-hmm.
I also remember one given by NS, and also
Mm-hmm.
going back to the skill shares. When he did the skill share, there was Marta,
Yeah.
which we interviewed in this podcast, and she's an architect, and she
Okay.
designs spaces for co-livings and whatnot, and she
Mm-hmm.
liked very much the idea of applying AI to interior design. So
Hmm.
Marta and Ines, they formed a startup, right? And
Okay.
that's
Wow.
to
Super
me
cool.
incredible,
Yeah, this
like
is super nice. Yeah.
out of a
Yeah.
skill share,
Yeah, yeah,
and
it's like yeah, it's true. It's like it's really like a lot of collaborations that are being born out of these days together as well. Yeah. I also worked like with other guests before together.
yeah. Oh, any
Yeah.
projects we should know?
Oh no, it's been a while. It's quite a few years ago, but yeah, especially when I was really attending all the Skillshares I could, and it was also giving some Skillshares. Yeah, yeah, there were a couple of items, but it's long ago. Nothing to promote.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
the sneak promotion is the best
Yeah, yeah.
promotion.
No, no, no. Yeah, but I want to focus on the promotional aspects because if I promote too many things, people will get confused. And that's
Ah, true, true, true.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Focus on
so
a few.
we'll just remember the Marcel remote workers, which will be
Exactly, exactly.
linked
There's a
in the
great
description.
WhatsApp group. Yes. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah, I'm also interested in the idea of creating this diffuse community. We mentioned that people move to houses near the colivings, and this diffuse community starts to happen, right?
Mhm.
This term was coined by Francesco Boldrini from Tertulia,
Okay,
and I
I
think
didn't
it's
know
a
that
very
one before.
interesting term.
Okay.
But in order to have this diffuse community, I think colivings tend to use tools like Slack, for example, which is pretty common. And I've seen some people using WhatsApp groups or communities.
Anything. Also Messenger, Facebook Messenger. I
Mhm,
feel like every co-living has tried at least 2 or 3 different versions. And I feel
mhm.
like there is no optimized one. Like every platform has its
Yeah,
pros and cons. But yeah, it's true. Like, it's somehow reaching a wider community, especially the Slack groups.
yeah. So maybe there's here an opportunity for somebody to code this app, no, for communities oriented towards co-livings.
Yeah,
Tobias and I will require 10% of the
exactly.
net gains, and
Was born out of this
perfect.
year. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Super important idea. The execution
Mm,
doesn't matter.
it's true. It's true. Yeah.
Okay, so it has been a pleasure, Tobias.
Yeah,
It's been
absolutely.
very
Thanks
nice
for
talking
for
to
having me.
you.
I'm very humbled after seeing, like the first episode with Alpinist Co-Living. I feel like, ooh, what value exactly can I add to the conversation? I'm not entirely
No,
sure, but here I am, just happily answering questions. So thanks for having me.
no, totally. Thanks you. And yeah, this has been another episode of Colivers Club. Thank you for being here and share like anything you want. Okay, so see you then. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.